This is a Sony 16-35 f4 power zoom lens, and it's an E-mount lens, it's full frame, it's part of their G line, so it's not a G Master, which is why it costs a measly $1,200. That's a joke. But is it worth it? Well, let's talk about it. So the unboxing experience with this lens is nothing special. You get some papers, you get a leather or maybe fake leather carrying bag. I don't know, I'm not a leather expert. Then obviously you get the lens and you get the lens hood. But yeah, that's all that comes in the box. Nobody really cares. So taking it out of the box, how did it feel? Honestly, I was surprised at how light it is. It does come in at 353 grams, which is less than its rival over here, which I already have. It's the Zeiss 16-35, and we will be making some comparisons, so I'll leave that here, I guess. So while it is light, it doesn't feel cheap by any means. It feels solid. Compared to the Zeiss, you can definitely tell this is lighter. It's slightly shorter, so overall a smaller package. The front is a 72mm thread size, so if you are buying ND filters or UV filters, there you go. And this lens has no shortage of controls on it. So the first one you see is a click toggle on and off. What that does is controls the aperture ring. If you want it nice and smooth, or if you want it clicky, you can toggle that right here. And just above that, you have your iris lock and unlock toggle switch. Then around the other side, you have your autofocus and manual focus switch. Above that, you have a custom button. And then above that, you have your power zoom rocker, which is kind of the main feature of this lens, which is something that's not included on many lenses out there, honestly. So if you're looking for a power zoom feature, meaning that you can zoom in and out directly by controlling this little toggle, then this is probably what you're looking for. Now, this lens does have 3 rings. Closest to the sensor, you have your aperture control, which, like I said, can be clicky or smooth depending on your preference. Then just above that, we have our zoom control. And then above that, we have our focus. And both of those are completely continuous, meaning they'll spin around and around. So if you're looking for something that has a fixed range of motion, this isn't it. So spec-wise, what do you get with this lens? Well, 16-35mm. And aperture range from f4 all the way down to f22. For autofocus, it uses Sony's newest linear motor, so it's extremely fast, extremely accurate, and extremely quiet. Like I mentioned, you do get the power zoom feature, which means you can zoom directly from the lens without having to kind of jiggle the lens around by using the wheel. Or if you have an FX3 or another cinema line camera that has the power zoom rocker built onto the camera, you can use that as well. I will show you guys later. This lens does contain 7 aperture blades, which isn't anything to write home about. I mean, it's not a G Master, so if you're looking for some nice cylindrical, smooth, creamy bokeh, then, maybe this isn't the best. So another feature of this lens is that it has suppressed focus breathing, meaning that it's supposed to be really solid in terms of racking focus from something near to far without getting that annoying breathing effect. Now, I have quite a few lenses in my repertoire, and some of them are terrible at it. This one seems to be pretty solid. Now, last spec I want to talk about is that this does not have any stabilization, no OSS built into the lens, which I assume does help bring down the weight and size of the lens, but if you want stabilization, you're going to have to rely directly on your camera. So who is this lens actually for? Well, with the power zoom and extremely lightweight, I imagine it is for videographers, but it also does take decent photos. So don't be swayed by the power zoom thinking that, oh, well, I want a photography lens, so this is out. Like I mentioned before, it is going toe-to-toe directly with the Sony Zeiss 16-35. And now that I picked it up again, this one feels way, way lighter. Honestly, the Zeiss is one of my favorite lenses. It's my go-to for landscape photography, and for videos, it's awesome with its built-in stabilization. But compared to the Sony, this being smaller, same focal distance, I mean, I'd say overall the Sony does slightly better photos. It comes out a bit more crisp, wide open at f4, but honestly for photography, you'd be solid with either one of these lenses. If you want a really technical review on this, go check out Gerald Undone. But yeah, this is supposed to be 5 minutes, so let's see how this actually works in terms of vlogging. Oh yeah, that's pretty solid. Move over, Casey Neistat. There's a new guy in town. Dear God, that was so bad. Let's get this over with. Yeah, the exciting things going on in this house. This is a entryway project that we've put together. There was nothing here before. We are putting the final touches. When I say we, I mean my wife is, while I stand here and film her. Okay, so the idea is we're out on a walk and I want to show you what it would be like vlogging with this thing while actually moving. Now right now I'm going to switch to this, so obviously I had to show you guys what I'm doing because I can't show that with the actual setup. So all right, we are on the setup, and yeah, this is the vlogging setup. It's relatively light, so I wouldn't say I'm like an aggressive walker, but you know, the camera does shake a little bit. But yeah, the lens does not have any stabilization built in, which is strange for a video-centric lens, but it does help keep the weight down. But I am on the FX3, which does have in-body stabilization. That is set to normal right now. Let's turn the stabilization off to show you guys what it would be like to use this lens on a camera without any stabilization. Does it look any more jittery? I can't really tell. The screen's tiny, it's sunny outside, but I'm sure you guys can see it. Trying to hold it as steady as possible while walking. Maybe I go for a brisk jog. Maybe someone's chasing me and I gotta run real fast. That's what it would look like. But for the most part, if you're using this lens, you're probably gonna have a camera with at least some stabilization on it. So yeah. All right, so now we have it on active mode. This is still at 16 millimeters, but it's punched in. So you can see a little bit tighter of a view because it's cropping into the image to do some even more stabilization. And this should be the smoothest. And with 16 millimeters, it's really wide. So even vlogging, I don't really have to hold it out really far. I can see I'm still in frame. Looks pretty good. And I don't have to reach my arm all the way out. So yeah, it's kind of a dual review on the FX3 stabilization as well as the new 16-35 power zoom. So overall, I really like this lens. It's probably going to be my new go-to for the 16-35 focal range, slightly nudging out the Zeiss. But if you already have the Zeiss, honestly, you probably don't need to upgrade to this. Like I said, this has been one of my favorite lenses ever, so it's still an amazing lens. But if you're in the market for a 16-35 and you don't already have one, then if you can scrounge together $300 more, I would suggest to go with the Sony power zoom, even if you don't need the power zoom features. But yeah, everything I used is linked down in the description below. If you like this video, drop a like. If you want to see more, hopefully 5-minute reviews, then subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.